yours is just like red with a Brian's face crossed out. Like, I need another co-host.
Okay, well, here we go. Welcome to this week's episode, The Drop with Frank and Brian. I'm Frank.
And I'm Brian.
And that's Brian. And this episode, we're going to be doing some viewer questions.
I like these episodes.
I like these. These are a lot of fun because it kind of just like, I got some goofy ones. I got some serious ones. So I think this is going to be fun. So where do you want to begin? Do you want me to just start at the beginning and end in the ending?
Yeah, because I started screen capping these questions.
Yeah, so did I.
And I don't know if I got every single one.
Do you happen to have some from previous, the previous ones, and just in case we run out of them? I think I do.
I think I do on this computer here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we can find that later on if we need to. But we got some good ones. We'll just go off of the questions too, because we can like really rant. Yeah.
You know, just dive into certain things.
A couple of them. Let's start off with this one. This is from Georgia, who was our guest in a previous episode. She's a lot of fun, and she said, I think this is aimed towards me because it says, if you built anything other than a truck, what type of tractor would Frank build? Because as I've hinted before in these episodes, I do live out in the middle of nowhere. I do have a tractor, and I do like tractor stuff.
Yeah, we need to see more tractor stuff on your YouTube or socials, because tractor stuff is fun.
It is fun. Yeah, funny enough, that's like one of my favorite things that we have is that tractor. And to talk about that tractor in particular, we've actually had that tractor for almost 40 years now.
What is it?
It's a Kubota. It's a 1989 Kubota. My family has been in construction for a really long time, basically my whole life. If we weren't doing car type businesses, we were doing construction, building houses. Yeah. And so my dad bought it way back in the late 80s. And so I essentially grew up with this tractor. Like I've had it most of my life. And from a little kid playing on it, like pretending like I'm driving a car, to actually using it for work, like doing various things throughout the years in construction, to now maintaining our property with it. And I actually, to be quite honest with you, I actually have a pretty emotional attachment to this tractor.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. And so, and it's been, throughout the years, it's like, we've had to do repairs on it, and it's spent a lot of years being broken. This last time, we let someone use it and they blew the clutch in it. And, so it sat for many years, like I would say 5 or 6 or 7 years it sat with a blown clutch. And then someone in my family tried to fix it. They took it apart and didn't know how to put it back together. So then it sat even longer in pieces. And then finally we found someone who was knowledgeable about that stuff and had it fixed. And for the last, I'd say about a year or so now, I've had a functioning tractor, and I use it all the time. And it's funny because I'll get on it and I'll start doing work around the compound here. And Angie will just be like, man, you just love being on that tractor.
Now, what do you use the tractor exactly for? That's the big question.
Moving dirt. We have our property has a lot of dirt on it. Like I've said before, I live on a dirt road, so it's a lot of smoothing out the road. So when it rains, we don't have giant lakes. I do a lot of we get a lot of weeds. A lot of weeds on this property, so it's cleaning up weeds and smoothing. We got a shipping container as a storage type thing, and so needed to grade it out. So I'm actually, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm actually quite good at it.
We're gonna need to see some tractor footage.
Okay, all right, I'll make it happen.
Next time you have to grade your road, take your camera, set it at the end of your road, and point it towards the asphalt street, and then grade the road. Is that the road that you grade? The public one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then grade public one. Put it on a time lapse, and we want to see
cool.
It. Yeah.
That'd be cool. Maybe that's the content. I've been thinking about it a lot. I have many cars, and it's gonna be, it's gonna get to a point where I need to get rid of all these cars. So I've thought about that there might be a shift, not a shift necessarily, but there's gonna be a lot of content of me, selling cars or getting these cars ready to sell. Stay tuned.
Will you have a 85 or it's an 84 to 88 Toyota on your property, right?
Yeah, I do.
Remember we were there and you said that me and Mike could pick one?
Yeah. And you picked the Toyota?
And I picked the Toyota. I think one day you're going to have to sell that or give that or donate it to the Grinder TV channel, and we will build it on here, and the whole thing will be us going to Frank's house, picking this truck up and building it.
Anytime you're ready. Please.
Because my first mini truck was 86 Toyota.
Yeah.
So eventually I do want to build.
Was it a short bed or a long bed?
It was a short bed, and it was a Japanese bed.
Uh-huh.
And we molded the 4x fenders on the back.
Oh, you sent me the picture of that silver one that just got in a sever.
Yeah, that's why I would like I need to send Springle painted that truck and built that truck. I need to send him photos because I never thought I'd see that mod again. A Japanese bed with the 4-wheel drive sheet metal on it.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a killer
it came
look.
Out sick.
Because it almost looked like a wide body.
Yeah,
like a wide body.
Yeah.
It turned out really cool.
It did.
Yeah, so anytime you're ready, you can come pick that thing up.
Yeah, with the tractor. We'll drag it out with the tractor.
I love the mysteriousness that I'm building around my life. I love the fact that our listeners are sitting wherever they are and going like, what does this place look like?
Have you ever watched Vice Grip Garage on YouTube?
No, I haven't.
Your yard is Vice Grip Garage. So go watch Vice Grip Garage, and it's this guy, Derek. And he basically goes out to, we'll say, similar yards to yours with cars that have been sitting for a very long time, gets them running, and drives them home.
Oh, I have heard of that. Yeah. I haven't watched any episodes, but I have heard of that.
Now, granted, we can't do that with the Toyota because I don't think there's a motor in it.
No motor.
No.
Most of them don't have motors. Some do.
No.
It's an
maybe
array.
that's where the LS I'm building will go in the 85.
Stuff it in that Toyota. That'd be sick. That'd be awesome. So
All
yeah,
right.
that was a good one to get started with. Thank you, Georgia, for that one. And
she asked another question.
Yeah,
too.
I was about to say, follow it right up with her second question. She asked, "Is there any events that you haven't been to that are on a bucket list?"
I guess we should have made notes for this. I should have made notes for this.
I figured all off the dome.
Off the dome, off the cuff.
Off the cuff, the dome.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's yours?
Oh, that you haven't been to that are on your bucket list. That's a tough one. I've been to so many.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's more or less of not going to an event because I've been to the ones that are on my bucket list, but it's going to an event with my truck.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like mini Nats, I want to experience it with my truck.
Yeah.
I want to experience LSD with my truck. You know, I've experienced it with everything else. I actually want to take a truck to these events.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a couple in Japan that I want to get over to, like the Moon Eyes and Truck Masters.
Yeah, with me, it's more like that's a really good point about saying like taking the trucks because we do travel so much without our vehicles. But when I was thinking about this question, I was thinking more of like not necessarily shows specifically, but locations. Like there's so many places that I want to go check out that we've sort of like created this thing that we've created. And what I do is like what shows are out in this area that we can go to a show, we can make content, we can make money, and we can go check stuff out. And lately, or actually not lately, for the past couple of years, every time we go out to Mini Nats and I talk to those dudes from like Maryland and the DC area, like I want to get up there and go check out some like, even if it's going, I know like this is kind of like crazy, but even going all the way out there to just go check out the culture, like the cruise nights, the clubs, hang out with the guys and just, and the people out there. And just experience that part of the country and that culture. Because I've said before, like, being in a big club and having members all over the place in many different places, it allows us to like just go be that for a little while. Like when we go to Texas, we can be Texans, and when we go to eventually when we haven't been there yet, but eventually when we go to Indiana to go hang out with the Indiana guys, we become Midwesterners for
we're gonna be
Indianians, So yeah, so like, and then obviously Japan, Australia, like those places. Even like I noticed. A lot of people are talking about trucks in the UK now.
Are they?
Yeah, there's I think it was like Mini Truck and Takeover posted a photo of a guy actually in like England who has an S10.
There's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. I actually met him. There was that old lowrider video that we filmed. It was a Stephen Brooks filmed, and me and Johnny O did behind the scenes of it.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
It was Una Familia lowriding.
Oh, I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one of the guys that came out from the UK is a mini truck guy. And I don't know if he's got a mini truck now or he's got a C10 now, but we're still friends on Facebook. And yeah, he always told me, he's like, it's impossible to find anything to do with trucks out there. But so they go to like Euro events. So if you look at some Euro footage from the UK, you'll find mini trucks dotted throughout.
Yeah. So yeah, my thing isn't necessarily like a specific show. It's more like kind of destinations.
We should go to the UK.
That'd be sick.
So down to go to the UK to one of the events out there.
Funny enough, I am literally half English. My dad is from England.
Well, so you'll understand the language.
Oh, of course. But you know what's even more interesting than that is like my dad and my entire dad's side of the family is from England. They're all English. I don't have any family there. Angie has more family. Her aunt lives in England, and she has cousins out there. She has a couple aunts. Just because they're all from the Philippines. And when they kind of immigrated from the Philippines out to these different countries, some settled in the States and some settled in London and England and stuff. So it's funny that me being actually like half English, I have zero relatives there. And Angie being no English has a bunch of relatives there. Yeah. So anyway,
so we're going to go to the UK, and I have an idea about that we can implement on our YouTube channels, but we'll talk about that another day. It's something I've been floating around in my head for a while.
Yeah, I can do that. Sounds interesting. I kind of want to know now, but we'll put a pin in that one.
Which interesting does it sound? Your interesting or the actual interesting?
I know. No, that's actually interesting.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right. So funny enough, now kind of to go into the next question from JMedia1 on Instagram. He asks, when you coming to Australia for East Coast Cruise? Now, you've been to Australia for the East Coast Cruise, right?
Yeah, the first time I went down to Australia, I flew into Brisbane, and that's where Mal and and Slam and the Forbidden guys live, and then we drove down to Batesman Bay, which is just south of Sydney, to East Coast Cruise, and now it's somewhere else. It's not in Batesman Bay anymore, but funny enough is we'll get into this too when we do eventually do our overseas topic. But it was the first mini truck show in Australia was East Coast Cruise, put on by Negative Camber and those guys down there. So if anyone ever wants to go to Australia to a show, go to East Coast Cruise. Make that the one that you go to. I know there's other events in Australia, but that's like when it comes to like a historical factor of events.
That's the one.
That's the quote unquote like granddaddy, of shows down there.
What DVD was that footage in? From your Australia trip?
The very first one.
Okay. So people could go check that out if they want to see that. That was a lot of, I remember that footage. I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember that footage and it looked like a lot of fun. And it goes right back to the conversation we've had in the last episode, or one of the episodes that we did, is just like, having fun and, trying to retell that story on the fun you had. Because that was your first time to Australia, and all that footage, you could tell the genuine excitement and what's the right word, excitement and just happy being there. It translates so well into that footage.
My Facebook memories, it's one of the only things I go on Facebook for, is to look at my memories now. And was this time 10 years ago, I was in Australia for another event, and so all the memories are starting to pop up on there. And I'm just
that's cool.
I can't believe it's been that long since I've been there. So
yeah.
So hopefully we'll go back one day, because it is a goal of mine to get back over there.
And I don't know if our listeners remember from another episode when I talked about my flying situation that I don't, and so that's on my, going back to George's question, the bucket list thing. And like I said, mine is more of destinations and rather than specific shows. But I guess in this case scenario, it would be a specific show, the East Coast Cruise. But Australia is huge on my list. I want to go there. I want to experience it.
It's only like a 16-hour flight.
Well, what's his name? The guy from Severed, the photographer from Australia.
Oh,
Toast. Yeah. He just came out for Severed in the Midwest, and I was following him along on his journey and all these plane trips and stuff. And he was flying straight from Dallas to Sydney.
Yeah, you can. So
Crazy.
I flew straight from LAX to Brisbane. And I remember on my way home, I had to fly from Brisbane to Sydney and then Sydney straight to LAX. And then there was one time I remember I had to fly from I stopped in New Zealand and spent a couple days there, and I had to fly into Fiji from there. And then, but if you do that ride from Sydney to LAX, that's a tough one. So anyone that ever flies that long of a distance, don't sleep when you get on the plane. Stay awake as long as you can. They have really good movies, and you know what I mean, like a lot of stuff.
Because the time messes with you.
Yeah, because if you fall asleep and you sleep for, let's say, 8 hours on a 16-hour flight or 15-hour flight, and you wake up and realize that you still have 7 hours on this plane.
Being on the plane still.
Being on the plane. It is way better to force yourself to stay awake and then sleep the last. Because if you wake up and you're like, oh my God, there's only an hour to go, it feels so good. Yeah. But if you wake up and there's 7 or 8 hours still to go, it's like, it kind of freaked me out when I did that one time. I remember got on the plane, got in the air, fell asleep right away. And I woke up and I went, there's still 8 more hours on this flight. What am I going to do?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you feel like trapped?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. I'm all like, well, this is not boding well for my whole flying thing. But was that when you went to Australia and you went to East Coast Cruise? Did you do the New Zealand trip in that same trip?
The one was,
or was that
not
a separate one?
Not that time. That was a separate one.
Oh, okay. Because I remember that was good too.
I think that was the one that I let Mal book my trip, and he booked me like a weird. On the way home, it was like a big layover in Fiji or something, and I was like, I'll book the trips from now on. But yeah, the New Zealand one was this. Did I do New Zealand? I did New Zealand twice. I've been to New Zealand twice, but the first time I flew from Australia over to New Zealand, stayed there for a couple of days, and then flew home.
Cool.
And then one time I just went to New Zealand without going to Australia.
Was that where you got all the footage from? I don't know what show that was.
It was called the Foreign Rotor Gnats.
Yeah, so was that trip?
That was that trip.
Oh, cool. And everybody, and you can go check those out on the. Is that also on the first DVD?
Yeah, that's the first DVD. I should really release that footage
on YouTube.
On the YouTube, yeah, I'll probably do that. Cool. Probably do that soon. Maybe I'll talk about the trip while I'll narrate it or something.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, because we landed in Wellington. That's where Nick lives, and we drove up to Auckland, so the entire North Island, we drove the whole thing. That's cool. So it was cool.
Yeah, well, and kind of go back to the Australia thing. Like that's the thing about being in the truck scene or the custom scene in general in Australia. Like everything is so spread out, right? Like these dudes are like driving 12 hours to go to a show, and just because like that's the only way they can get there.
Well, yeah, and there's big hot rod shows in Australia. Oh, yeah? Really big ones, yeah. But there's not a lot of like truck dedicated events, so they're few and far between, and they're I think they're now mostly like Sydney area ish. But yeah, so if you want to go to one, you got to drive.
And that pops a thought into my head, because that sounds very similar to what Georgia was telling us in her episode about living in Canada, and like the scenes are kind of melded together just because there's not a lot of like separate things going on, which we get, I don't want to say spoiled, but we definitely have the options here that like she was saying in that episode, like when you're a lowrider in Canada, you go to the lowrider shows as well as the hot rod shows as well. The mini truck shows are all the same, but there's so much stuff going on in the States that you can go to only lowrider shows and be busy. You never have to go to another show, and it's a little tougher in the truck scene because there's not so many, but the shows are growing, and we're kind of like the proof of that. We travel so much and go to the truck shows. Like there are shows out there.
Well, and if you look at the shows we go to, how many are just mini trucks?
Oh yeah, for sure.
There's Mini Truck Nationals is essentially, I mean, there might be a couple in there, but Forbidden and stuff, but LST is not a mini truck show.
Right.
LST is everything. You go to all these shows, it's like 40-50% mini trucks, C10s, OBSs, some lifted trucks. So it's not, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? A truck show is a truck show is a truck show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a really good right into our next question here. And I feel like I'm developing not a complex, but I'm developing like a something. And Pinnacle _ C10 asks, why do you hate C10 so much?
Pete, me and him talk quite a bit. His truck is the one that was at Rolling in the Red Rocks.
It's the blue one, like the patina blue one. Yeah, we talk all the time too. He's always sending me updates, on all the stuff he's got going on with his interior, which is great. I love it. Thank you for messaging me all that stuff. It's so cool. It's just funny that I'm developing a complex. I'm developing this complex of hating billet wheels and C10s, which I hate neither. I like them both very much.
But it's fun to keep that going. So Frank's next build will be a C10 on billet wheels, body drops.
Yeah.
With the LS engine in it.
An LS engine in it on AccuAir.
Just driving it around super mad all the time.
That guy doesn't look like he's enjoying himself very much.
No.
And there's that sound on like TikTok and stuff, and it's all like, have you ever seen someone angry driving a lowered truck? That's gonna be me. Like, why is that guy so angry?
I know.
But yeah, no, I love C10s. I think they're cool. I think the complex is developing just because, we've talked a lot about the C10 shows and about, and by the time this, for sure by the time this episode drops, my C10 slowdown video has been out for a while, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun, and I really like those trucks. What I'm trying to find is, especially with like the C10 stuff, is my specific taste. And, I noticed at the C10 slowdown, like I was very attracted to the trucks that were more like, I guess, air quotes, traditionally built, where they're like, on Supreme wheels with white walls and like patina paint and, kind of not like rat rodish rough around the edges, but, not this like sleek, modern looking hot rod. I like more like the traditional type styles, because I've actually been into traditional hot rodding for like a really long time. Having the car lot and working on the car lot and growing up around many different types of cars, I've always been attracted to like the traditional hot rodding and like stuff like the Viva Las Vegas show, where it's like a traditional hot rod only show. And so I think that's why I was like, if you watch the C10 slowdown video, you can kind of see like, oh yeah, this dude, I can kind of see the taste that this guy likes.
Yeah.
So
it's more of just we just poke fun at it.
Mm-hmm. It's more poking fun at ourselves. And that's why I laughed, like, developing this complex over, billet wheels and C10 trucks. It's just funny, I think it's hilarious.
So the next one is from Jordan, no regrets, NR _ Jordan. With the badass red Frontier.
Yeah, I love that truck.
Says, if you guys could relive one show again for the first time, which one would it be? That's a good question.
That is a good question. And I would say, now, relive it without like knowing anything about it, or knowing what we know now about it.
Probably knowing what we know now about it.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
You know what I mean? Because the question could also be like, what's your favorite first show? Because
yeah.
But if you want to relive it, probably like if you had a time machine and you could be like, okay, I'm going to go back to this show and relive that experience.
I already know which two shows. I have two shows, and the first one is the Forbidden Fantasy show. The very, very first Forbidden Fantasy show I went to, I didn't show my truck. And I've always kind of regretted that, because I only had that truck at that time, because by the time the next year came around, I had a different truck. And it was almost to a point, I've talked a lot before about, how many trucks I've had. And it was almost to a point where I was like taking a new truck to Forbidden every single year. And but I do regret going that first time, because I was new to the scene. Like this was in 2001, and so I had just got voted into my club the previous January, I think it was. So I'm brand new to my club, new to kind of going to big shows and stuff. So we went to the show, and I left my truck in the parking lot. And then going in and experiencing that show for the first time and seeing all these amazing rides, I felt left out. I was like, I should have brought my truck in. Mm-hmm. So that's one. And then the second one would be, funny enough, that's the two things have in common, because my first one would be Rezo, because my very, very first show was a Rezo. It was Rezo into the 2000-2001 year. And I did the same thing. I took my truck, I went into the show into the truck, but the thing I didn't do was I didn't camp. I was only there for Saturday. And I now regret that. Like, I should have went in there, and I should have, like, because like brand new to the scene. What's a 3-day truck show? You guys intense out here? Like, it sounded kind of absurd at the time, you know?
Now we miss it.
And now we miss it and we long for those days. And now I'm like, damn, I should have just stayed there and really experienced it. Now, granted, I did it the next year, you know, we camped and, you know, but to go back to those first 2 shows that I went to, I should have like fully experienced them.
Yeah, I would go back to my first rezo. And for the simple fact is, I forgot all the details. You know, I remember it was at Lake Paris Fairgrounds where we had the Forbidden Show where you went to the Forbidden Show for the first time. It was so much dirt. Like, it wasn't like when you went to the Forbidden Show. It was, the grounds were totally different. Most of the buildings weren't there. And I didn't experience like the stage. And I was taking some of Roulette's VHS tapes and transferring them to digital. And he was on the stage at those shows.
What year was this?
Mine was the 95 to 96. So Rezo always gets weird because it was always
it was always in between.
So do you call it was the year was 1995, and so was that Rezo 95 or was that Rezo 96?
Bob always consistently called it the next year.
Okay, so my first truck run was Rezo 96 and I'd just gotten Forbidden in, I think I want to say like October of 95 or something like that. So it was just a few months. And it was, funny story is I lived in Moreno Valley and I lived right off Paris Boulevard, which was right where the Lake Paris Fairgrounds was. So it was only 15 minutes from my house, but I drove 35 minutes the opposite direction to Corona to meet up with the club to drive 30 minutes back to cruise
cool.
to Rezo.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, where now I would have been like, I'll just meet you guys there. You know, like, because you just become complacent as you get.
No, yeah, but I mean, you're in your first truck club, you're excited. Yeah, no, I totally get that.
I was like, so yeah, it was, but I don't think I camped. I did show my truck because I remember Bob yelling at me because he was like, how many mods do you have on this truck? And I was like, I don't know. It's lowered. It's got wheels. He goes, no, mods. I was like, what's a mod? And he's like, oh, it's shaved door handles. And I was like, I don't have any of those. And he's like, get it, go in there.
I think everybody has a Bob yelling at them about something story. And I have many.
Yeah. So I would go back to that show because I forgot the people that were in the club at the time. Like I remember certain bits and pieces about it, but I was just like, I maybe was a little overwhelmed and I didn't get the truck run experience. I would have explored more.
Yeah. I kind of, that's another regret that I have about early on. Like, but you were showing me all those VHS tapes that you have from over the years. I wish I would have done that more, documented more, because like I don't have a picture of my very first S10. Actually, funny enough, a while ago I posted it on my Instagram. Someone sent me a picture of one of the very first shows that I went to with my S10, and if you zoom in, you can kind of see the front. But I never took a picture of like the whole thing. You know, I think because back then, like, you know, it wasn't like, you know, you snap it with your phone or even like a digital camera. It was like you would have to either use a disposable camera or a film camera and then go get it developed, you know. But I wish I would have done that more. Yeah.
And I wish I would have done a better job of it because I remember like looking at some of the stuff. I didn't even get a lot of good stuff. I was just I at girls most of the time.
I have some tapes because I'm actually,
like, you go to these truck runs and you're just like overwhelmed with what's happening at these truck runs. So I was pointing my camera at those things.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny you mentioned that because I was looking when I was looking for the footage of those old photo shoots that I did with Jaime for that episode. I found some old folders of like Rezo, like mid 2000s, and I opened them up. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of tits. And I thought that was funny that you mentioned that because it just happened to me. Yeah, but yeah, I guess when you're young and a young man out in the scene, and you know things were different back then.
They were different. There was no phones and stuff like that, so everyone was a little more free when it came to showing parts of their body.
And you know what's funny is I missed that time capsule of the crazy ones, because even when I got in the early 2000s, the old timers were talking about the old river runs because they were old river runs at that point. and they would tell me stories, and I'm like, no way.
Yeah.
And then, but now, 20 years later, I look at the time when I was in there, and I was like, yeah, things were way different. But I mean, but I just miss those super crazy.
Yeah, you were
river
about
runs.
about 5 years, 6 years
Yeah.
behind the thing, because things were starting to kind of calm down. They really stopped when cell phone cameras became a thing, because
Yeah, and that really didn't. I mean, the first I didn't have like my very first reliable cell phone camera probably until like 2010.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't know. Or the internet became a thing, because MySpace was a thing, so you could go and upload your photos to social media. So you didn't necessarily need a cell phone camera, but you could take video
that's true.
and photos, and then
That's really true.
And then-
Because
but-
previous
and-
to that, if you wanted to see any kind of like crazy, and this is kind of preludes a future guest, if you ever wanted to see something really crazy, you'd go check out truckrun.net or partypage.net.
Party Page was the one. That was the OG one.
Who ran that? Because if Donald ran Truck Run, who ran Party Page?
I don't know, and Jason Ballard would probably know.
Yeah, that's a good person to ask. Jason, can you drop a comment in this video and let us know, please? Thank you.
He's not listening.
He's not watching.
So it was someone, I want to say it was someone from like Art of Noise, SoCal, or something like that.
Yeah, that was the wild one.
It
like
was.
Truck Run, like Donald did some wild photos, but it was mostly a lot of truck content and show coverage. But Party Page was exactly that in the title. It was the party stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Party Page
I think it's still up.
Is it?
I think so. As the last time I checked, I think it was still a thing.
Partypage.net.
Yeah. I remember, it's so funny. I remember I remember making this joke many years ago. There was a girl in our club who got a little wild out there, ended up on partypage.net, and we joked with her like, yeah, when your kids come across this in the future, I think that's a real thing, because I think it's still around.
Well, yeah, because if you go truckrun.net, I don't know what his oldest shows are, but those people have those
I
people
know for
can
sure.
have those people can have 23-year-old children right now,
Yeah, or older.
or adults, like,
Yeah,
so.
because no, for real, I think Donald still has shows and stuff from the early 2000s.
Oh, he does, because
on there.
every time I need to reference something, I'll go to his page.
Yeah. Well, now everybody listening is like, wait a minute, what did I do at Rezo 2003?
Well, that's what I like, those VHS videos I have. I'm looking at people and I'm like, I want to know where that person's at. Mm-hmm. And I've even gone to message people like, I was riding in Mike Quigley from No Regrets when he was in Forbidden. I was riding in his truck around Spring Splash 1998, and someone came up to the truck and pulled their shirt down, and I got it on video, and I sent a screen cap to Mike, and I go, "You remember this?" And he goes, "Who the heck is that?" And then I screen capped the girl's face, and I go, "It was her." And he goes, "I still talk to her."
No way.
Yeah. And then he sent me back with, he goes,
awesome.
I just sent this to her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did he say what her response was?
Yeah. She said to be young again or something like
Yeah.
that.
Maybe,
like-
a lot of it, that's what it is.
yeah.
To be young again. Kind of, wait, what question are we on? Oh, the relive thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's another one that I would totally relive now that we're kind of like getting into the nostalgia of it and talking ourselves through it. Freak Fest.
I never went.
You never would do
I
that.
never went, man. That's why
Oh my gosh.
if we want to talk about shows that you could go, that you missed and could go to, I never went to that. And
It was wild. They did it for 2 years, maybe 3, but I remember 2 specifically. And if I was ever to kind of like relive those old River Run shows, I think that's the closest thing you would come to. It was wild. I mean, it was like, and I won't get into like the real graphic details about it, but it was like lawlessness. It was like complete lawlessness. And I mean, people riding around on mini bikes. It was at the Formosa Raceway in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
And they had a mini bike track. So everybody brought their little mini dirt bikes, and people are like going wild, jumping like over cars. And there's like all the other graphic stuff going on as well. But that's one thing that stuck out in my mind is this complete lawlessness and mini bikes jumping over cars.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Actually, you know what? I have all my mini truck DVDs up on the shelf. I had a Freak Fest one. I don't know where it is, but they made like a DVD.
Low Life Mike did that.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I got
he made
that
a
somewhere. I
special
gotta
for.
find that.
They had a third one, and it was at Orange Show Fairgrounds in San Bernardino.
Oh, I do remember that, and it was sort of mixed with the whole like cannabis cup thing.
Yeah, but it was so. That Freak Fest is a weird has a weird history to it. But
It does.
The guy basically was going to throw a third one in Bakersfield. They couldn't do it, but he had everyone's money, and so he threw the one in Orange County or Orange Show Fairgrounds in San Bernardino and honored everyone's pre-reg to go to that one. And then
I think I did. Now that you mentioned it, I did go to that one too. So I went to all three of them.
Yeah. So do you remember that everyone left, the promoters and everyone left in the middle of the night? And then it was, I remember on X1039, there was supposed to be bands playing, and on X1039 was like, we don't even know what happened. These they canceled or something happened, but I guess it was just like I didn't go, but I remember a couple of our members went, and they said that there was just a DJ tent. And like people were pulling their trucks into the DJ tent, and there was just like no one in there.
It was like one of those, like, you know how the Indian casinos had those like canvas buildings? It was like one of those. Yeah, I do. I remember exactly that.
That's funny.
So that's another one, Freak Fest. Anyway,
Yeah.
back on track here.
Yeah.
That was a good one. Thanks, Jordan. That was a good one. Thank you. Poised _ bodied NBS. What's his name?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Mike.
I won't forget your name, Mike.
Yeah. So he's got a question here. It says, will Frank commit and drive the 4Runner once a week? Yes, I will eventually. Right now, it's got a little gas tank issue that I'm trying to work out. Without going into great detail about it, I had it smogged, and in California, having an older vehicle, and then for some reason I am always the lucky one in every single one of the cars that I need a smogger Gold Star. So like I have to take it to a Gold Star station. You guys could Google that and look it up. They have to pressurize the tank, and I think when they pressurize the tank, they blew off like a vent valve or something, and so now it's like dumping gas everywhere. So I got to figure that out.
Oh, that's right.
Once I do figure it out, after talking with Jaime. And what's really sticks out in my mind from that conversation, I've been thinking about it actually since we did that episode. He's all, just drive, just go get lunch, go drive it to the store to do something. I'm like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. So I remember driving the Frontier that I had, the Ryan's old one from No Regrets, and then Chad bought it, and then I got it.
Oh, the blue and silver one.
Yeah, I remember I used to just drive that to the grocery store. It was so cool.
Yeah, because that's what, like you were saying, I think in the last episode we just did, that you're just looking for that, like this, just like, what the, you know what I mean?
People see you coming out with groceries, and then they see the truck, and then they start to tie the person, like, is that person walking to the truck? Oh, he is. He's about groceries. He's putting them in. The tonneau cover had a button on the thing, so it would lift up. So I would just cool. And it would lift up, put the groceries, and it would come back down, and then I'd get in and air out, and people were like,
yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool.
So
yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. I'm gonna make that commitment.
All right. This one's about me.
Oh, gee, that one is about you. Go ahead.
Our buddy Kalakis Car Club.
Chuco,
yes. When was the last time Brian bought a pair of pants?
I know what he's talking about too, because low key, like when I was showing my kids when I fell out of the chair and you lean back and laugh, my kid's like, why is Brian wearing pajamas?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Are you wearing pajamas right now?
My pajama shorts?
Yeah.
That's because I call these my work pants.
Yeah. I knew that.
Because I work from home and I don't have to leave my house ever. My wife works at a grocery store. So when we need groceries, funny enough, we do go grocery shopping quite a bit, even though she works at a grocery store. Yes, Chelsea will be like, do you need anything before I come home? And I'm like, yeah, this, and this. And she leaves her grocery store, stops at the other grocery store on the way home and gets it.
That's funny.
Yeah.
What does that say about Chelsea's grocery store?
She's just like, I just want to get out of here. I just want to go home.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, if you've been there for 12 hours, you're just like, I don't want to be here anymore. Well, I get that.
And I also only wear shorts because of where I live. There's very few occasions where I have to wear pants. You know what I mean? So... But I did. I bought like 5 pairs of pants because they were on sale at this Dickies outlet last year or something. That's the last time I bought a pair of pants.
And to kind of like put myself out there a little bit, I'm the complete opposite. I only wear pants.
Yeah.
And people have made that comment before, like especially like our Canadian guys, they love pointing out the fact that I only wear pants. Like you catch me at a show, I'm wearing pants. It could be 110, and I'll wear a tank top, but I'm wearing pants.
Now, why can't you just wear a pair of Dickie shorts?
I'll tell you why. I don't know. I used to wear Dickie shorts all the time. You know, growing up in Southern California, you know that's the uniform.
Let's get Frank.
Let's
get Frank into some Dickie shorts this at one of the shows coming up. We're gonna get you into some Dickie shorts.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, but I'm not opposed to wear shorts. We hung out at the beach like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but that's the beach. You can't wear pants at the beach. So here's a little funny story about our friend Ernie Macias. Ernie Macias, when I first met him, would never wear shorts. And finally, one day we went to the river, and he finally wore us some shorts because it was just me and Ernie and our friend Denny and Nick, right? And we got in the boat, and Ernie wore shorts, and he was like, "Man, I feel this is really, I like this." And then if you saw modern day Ernie, he always wore shorts. So I bet if we can get Frank into some shorts, some Dickie shorts at a show, and break his pants thing, I bet you'll wear shorts a lot more.
Maybe I'll give it a try.
Let's do it.
I don't know, but like I said, I don't have any particular
you're at these hot
maybe
shows.
Subconsciously.
I think it's subconscious because it's a lot cooler when you wear shorts. Like not cool visually, but cooler weather-wise.
But I don't mind being hot. That's the thing. Is like I don't care if I'm hot or not.
That's gross.
And I also wear like my socks pulled up like almost to my knees too. So
I'm the same way. Like my socks are not pulled up to my knees, but I don't wear short socks. I can't wear those like ankle socks. I have to wear, and I wear white.
Those a lot.
I wear white socks. I don't wear black socks because I don't know.
I'm the other way. So like I only wear black socks. And now all of our listeners are like, okay.
We're working through our problems here.
We're working through our problems.
And they're not really like, problems, but they're just
Frank
weird.
has a fear of flying, shorts. Just
Brian just wears pajamas all the time. And I do. And actually these pajama shorts that I'm wearing, I could go to the store and you couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
But I have not gone to the Walmart in pajama pants. Though I have not stooped that low. I will change.
Yeah, that's problematic right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, your shorts definitely like do look like those old school, like, you know, the ones you used to get like the indoor swap meet, like all the cholos used to wear them.
Like these.
Yeah, those. So yeah, those are just normal shorts.
They're just normal shorts, and they're very, very comfortable. But I think I was wearing the day you fell. I was probably wearing my was I wearing these?
I don't know. I can't remember. All I know is like my kids were like laughing so hard at me falling, and then my little one goes, "Why is Brian wearing pajamas?"
It's my work uniform.
That's your work uniform. Just going.
So if anyone has if you're out there and you're listening, and you're like, "Oh, I have a question based on that," just send it to the Drop Instagram, and we will we'll document it away for when we do these.
Shows. We always even if we're not, like, I put it out on Instagram like we're doing a questions and answers episode. That's not only just strictly that thing, just whenever you think of it, drop us a
send
line.
it to us and we'll document it. But go ahead with the next one.
Okay, we got B_Miller Time says, do you like the old way of having classes at shows? Oh, I see. I'm sorry, let me start again. Do you like the old way of having classes at shows or the new top 10 style of judging? Now, you being a show promoter, I'm pretty sure you got some pretty good opinions on this.
Yeah, because I think there's the opinion of the show promoter, and then there's the opinion of the show goer. And as the show promoter, the top classes are way better. 2 reasons. When we used to start at the Forbidden Show, we did classes. Everyone did classes. You know, mini truck, stock mild wild, or street mild wild, first through third. Full size truck, stock mild wild. Compact car, stock mild. Well, the problem started happening is mini trucks were starting to get bigger. So if you had like a hard body, and then a Dakota pulled in, or a
Colorado.
Yeah. So is Colorado still a mini truck? So then people created mid-sized truck classes. And then cars were the same way. So you had Honda Civics, and you had a full-size car, you know. But then you started having Honda Accords, which is still technically like a compact car. And I don't know, it just got to a point where like you either created 1 million classes, or you just do the top 75. So Forbidden Fantasy, our show does top 75, and we do like 20 best ofs.
Is it like a also like a financial thing? So rather than having like 300 trophies, you just have 50 or 100?
No, because depending on the size of your show, I mean, yeah, I guess you could look at it that way, but that's why we have so many best ofs. So if you have a smaller show, you can have 5 best ofs. If you have a bigger show, you can have more best ofs. So you're still spending, quite a bit of amounts, but it's just, I don't want to say it makes it easier, but it just makes it more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see that. So this is like taking 3 hours to do, trophies.
Yeah, and I think as a show goer, the classes were definitely better.
So from my perspective, as being a show goer for so long, I guess my perspective has really evolved over the years, because when I first started getting into it, I was very hungry. Like, you want that validate. I don't know whatever you want to call it, but I wanted that. So like you were hoping that you could at least get a third in your class, or first or second would be great, but you just get some sort of acknowledgement. But as time went on, and this is me personally, as I kind of like lost interest in getting trophies, like. It just became less and less, and I don't want to sound like pretentious or anything, like one of those dudes like, it's not about the trophies, because it is about the trophies, because if you didn't have the trophies, then why is the point of having the show? So I understand the importance of them, so I'm not coming at it from a perspective like I'm like downplaying the value of a trophy. They're still valuable in their own respect, but for me personally, I just sort of like lost interest in them, and it came down.
I could see like neither of us have show trucks.
Yeah.
This goes back. So if you're like a true on a competing level.
Oh, okay. I see.
Like Eddie Gordy, he's got the white cookies and cream Mazda, and he takes it basically to every show. Mm-hmm. Like he competes. He takes them like on a lowrider level.
Yeah. Yeah. He was just at a lowrider show last weekend.
Yeah. He's at a show every weekend. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so he built his truck to compete. So when it comes to classes, like I can see on a competing level, because you want to compete with people building the same style of truck as you. So if you build a Tacoma, you want to compete with another mini truck, or if you build a full size, you want to compete with another full size. So that's not for me to say because I'm just never going to be that person.
Right.
But on a competitive level, classes are way better.
Yeah. Because that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Because on a top 75, you're just competing with everyone at the show.
So now another question would be, so I kind of like mentioned like a cost effectiveness thing where like you're not buying 300 trophies, you're buying like 75 or whatever. I wonder if also that translates to like quality of trophies, because now instead of buying like 200 or 300 those like column trophies to fill these classes, now you can maybe invest that same amount of money into having 75 really badass trophies. And the ones that I'm thinking about in particular is LST. Like those are pieces of like art, So that's a whole different subject. So even when you have classes, you're still going to have about the same amount of trophies. Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So you have 75 trophies. If you have 10 classes with 3 first through third, it's only 30 trophies.
Yeah,
so
no, you're right.
They're really the amount of trophies isn't, and you can still have real high quality top 75s. That's what. So yeah, that really kind of just comes down to how many total trophies you're going to have.
Yeah, and that's another thing. One thing that I do enjoy when I get trophies is, and I'm like looking at them right now because they're in my office all set up. I really enjoy when there's a lot of like, and talking about those LST ones, those billet ones, like when people get creative, and there's a line. Now I'm going to say 2 things about that. I'm going to say 2 things. One is getting really creative and coming up with like LST type billet machine, awesome looking trophies to where, I always refer to it as like something you would like put on display in your house. Not just not like a little column trophy with first place on it, but like something really nice that you put in your house. So I really like it when shows can get creative. But the line that I'm talking about, and I kind of see that you understand what I'm saying, is when it gets a little too crazy, and then you start getting these like, contraptions with like parts welded on it, and it gets
nobody wants to take a brake drum home with them.
Let me tell you a funny story that happened. It was at a show. I guess I'll say which one. So it was at Chubb's a few years ago, but I won't name names. So it comes down to the long distance trophy, and I know you've dealt with that in its own regard, but I'm going to talk about this one in particular. So it comes down to the long distance trophy, and there's a group of 3 guys standing there, and they are measuring down to the foot because they were all from the same area. So they're all getting into the mud about, well, I'm 6 stoplights away and you're 4 stoplights away. So they finally figure it out. And Freaks, the guys put on the show, like, okay, we figured it out. Here's your trophy. And they pull out a full size 24-inch Alcoa wheel and say, here you go. And I remember laughing so hard. I'm like, these guys are, fighting over this trophy, and now they have to drive. All of them drove mini trucks, and they drove their mini trucks to the show. So now they have to haul this 24-inch Alcoa wheel home.
Oh my God.
It was funny. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I remember there was a show we went to, and it was like all car parts, and they welded them all together. And
yeah.
I'm like,
so, but
I respect the attempt, but. Because there's 2 different kinds of trophies, and like there's like the LST trophies where they're almost like an Oscar.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter what year you win an LST trophy. If you walk into a shop and you see that trophy, you know it's from LST and you know it's prestigious. Where like the Forbidden Show, we utilize our artwork because our artwork is always very unique and special to the event. So we use that for our trophies.
Yeah.
So but yeah,
no, that's cool. That's a really good way to put it. I like that. A prestigious, like an LST award is a prestigious award. And I do like, the point in time when shows, like you were saying, like with the Forbidden Fantasy show, incorporating the art into all the trophies, and especially like, and again, I'm like looking at all the trophies, like all the acrylic trophies, and our friend Doug makes a lot of them. But I like that. I think they're cool. I think they're interesting. It's something that you can display with nice art on it. And it becomes like a thing, like either like, I don't know, a conversation piece or whatever.
Yeah.
But.
If I can ever get Doug, if you're listening to this, Doug, I'm going to call you after this episode because I've been trying to get you to make me some trophies.
Oh, some Grinder TV
trophies? So I'm going to make a trophy that's essentially this. It's just going to say Grinder TV Choice. And I might put this show that it's for, but I might just get a bunch of these awards and they're going to be the same thing. So if I see you at a show, I can just hand it to you.
Well, how do you feel about like there are some shows who kind of rely heavy on that, like sponsored trophies, like each trophy is like presented by.
Oh yeah, we do that with our show.
Do we? I don't know. So I've said before in episodes, for our hardcore listeners who listen to everything that we say, I have said before that when it comes to the show, I kind of go like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So like all of our, like if you listen to the trophy awards, it's like best mini truck brought to you by Battle and Bama or brought to you by whatever shop. It just helps offset the cost of the awards for the show promoter, and then it just makes the like if Grinder TV sponsored best mini truck at Mini Nats, like I feel like I'm helping the event, and I'm also like, like it attaches my name to the best mini truck at that show. Yeah,
for sure. I agree. Like I think I do. My opinion is I think it's cool because it allows, like you said, it allows certain companies to really kind of like hone into their particular thing that they do. No, that's cool.
Yeah, and we should talk about that one day. Like we could get more deep into awards, trophies, and judging because there's so many different variables to different events and the way they judge, and some take it more serious and some don't. And I can talk about how we do our show and how we used to and how we do it now and why we do it the way we do it now. So maybe we'll jump into that on another episode.
Yeah, right. Hold on, let's write that down. Put a pin in that. All right. Okay. Moving on. So that was a great question. Thanks, B_Miller time. That was a great question. So we have, this is another great question. Nando559_. He asks, process and time it took for you guys to become full club members. Now we look at this from 2 different perspectives because you've been in the club for a long, long time.
So it's funny because it took me 3 meetings and 3 modifications.
That's how it was in my first club too.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of a common theme when in clubs, except at least in the 90s.
Yeah.
We had weekly meetings, so they're every Saturday night. So you had to go to 3, and then you had to have 3 mods. And back in the day, a mod in our club was like tinted windows.
You're describing that last club I was in like to a T. You're right. I think maybe it's like a 90s thing.
Yeah, it was like in a very SoCal Mini Truck Council. All those clubs that were in it, because they kind of like, I'm going to start a club, and you were either in a club prior, or you asked for the rules of another club or asked questions of another club, and so everything was very similar. And we didn't really start to get more serious about it until we had a bunch of yahoos in the club, and we were like, no, we need to vet these guys a little bit more.
Yeah, it's so funny because that's exactly what happened in my old club too. I got into the truck that I had at the time to get into my first club was already pretty custom. It was a bagged S10, fully shaved, like the whole back end was molded. So but yeah, there was a lot of people in our club, and it got to a point where it's problematic when you're like, a guy rolls in and he's like, I got this Dodge Neon with tinted windows, aftermarket, like kind of cheesy wheels, and a stereo. And by stereo, I mean it's got a deck in it.
Yeah.
So we went through the same evolution, and we had to like hone it down and say, okay, well, 3 events. Well, they need. Yeah, we got into a whole thing about it.
Yeah,
but now, so that was what year you got into Forbidden in '98? You said
no, I got in Forbidden in 1985, and I became president of Forbidden Fantasy in 1998, and then we started really. I started kind of taking things more serious in like the early 2000s, and throughout that time just started to really like, no, I want to make this club something I want to be a part of forever. You know what I mean? Not just right now.
Yeah, and now fast forward to when I petitioned. So I petitioned in the summer of 2014. And I got voted in I started petitioning at Summer Madness in 2014 and got voted in at Summer Madness in 2015. And by that time, it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like you had to have at least a vehicle that was bagged, like had to be bagged. And then it was like a year process. Like you had to hang out for a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So the minimum amount of time when a member comes up and says, I want to be in your club. Then they have to officially start petitioning, and from that official petition point to the minimum amount of time they have to get voted in is a year. It could vary by a couple weeks or whatever, depending on the event. But there's been people that have been petitioning this club for multiple years.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's not a cut and dry thing either.
No, it's when the club feels you're ready, because when you start petitioning, the rules of our club is you have to have air suspension, and or a case-by-case scenario, because we are getting to the point where, like, if you have a really cool classic mini truck that's just static dropped, that could become a thing, be in the club, you know what I mean? But the rules are, we call them the 10 Commandments.
I've never heard of this.
You've never heard of this?
No, I've never heard of this. This is the first time I'm hearing it.
Maybe it's just a thing shared amongst the presidents of the club because we do have a group, a separate group of just club presidents, like chapter heads. And maybe it's not it's been so long since we've had like an actual club meeting.
You can go on.
Stuff. Yeah. So we have the 10 Commandments, and it's essentially you want to give me a second? I'll pull them up. All right. So I pulled them up. I'm going to read them real quick.
Yeah. This is all brand new news to me.
Yeah. We obviously don't share the rules of our club with our club members. But I think again, this is more like for chapters, like when and this is more of like a reference. We really don't have a lot of rules in this club, but these are the rules, just for an example. All trucks must lay at least frame unless they're lifted. If they're lifted, they must be like pretty badass, not just some 3-inch bolt-on kit. So that's exactly what this says, actually. So
like literally,
lifted trucks are case by case. We don't get a lot of lifted stuff in the club at all. So cars must lay as low as possible. Some cars lay lower than others, and that's fine. There are vehicles such as hot rods and older cars that we will assess on a case by case basis. All vehicles that are under construction are fine as long as they are being worked on. Shady bodywork, rust, and just plain laziness will need to be addressed before the vehicle is voted in. Potential members must petition the club for a minimum of 1 year. The prospect must attend a meeting and confirm they are starting their petitioning process. This is a minimum period, and some will need to go longer. At the time of being voted in, the petitioner's vehicle must meet all club criteria. So we've had issues where people try to get in, like voted in, and their truck is still like in pieces or whatever. Each chapter can have apparel made, but it must be approved before it's finalized, which goes through me. Each chapter can have apparel. Our club jackets are for full members only. This includes wives, husbands, children. Forbidden Fantasy logos must be either 18-inch or 36-inch in width, unless for some reason they need to be different. Logos should never be put on a stock vehicle. These rules apply to all Forbidden Fantasy chapters. At no time can any chapter make up their own rules and stray from these. And last but not least, Forbidden Fantasy is a custom truck club and car club first and foremost. Family and work come before the club at all times, but if you absolutely cannot make it to any events or meetings, you need not to petition. There's always cases where things are different, and in these cases, we as presidents can discuss and make a decision. So yeah, these are pretty much just for the guidelines of each chapter president to kind of take into consideration. They're not really not much set in stone, but when it comes to the petitioning process, it's a long one because you find out a lot about a person in a year's time. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I can't remember towards the end of being in my old club what it was. I can't remember, but it's good to have a simple set. That's very simple, like the 10 Commandments. It's very simple, like you just go by those. And in my old club, and I'm not bringing up their stuff club doesn't exist anymore, but we used to do these things. We used to have bylaws. And we'd have this with chapters in the bylaws and bullet points. So what we would do is once a year we would sit down and decide if we needed to make revisions. That was the longest thing in the world. It would take hours and hours and discussion and arguments, and it just became to the point where it's just it wasn't fun. It was just a bunch of people sitting around for hours. We did the same thing every year. We would actually. So back in the day we had president, vice president, sergeant of arms. Mm-hmm. We had one sergeant of arms per 10 members. So we had 5 sergeant of arms, a master sergeant of arms, a secretary, a historian. I think all clubs did this.
Yeah, my old club. That's exactly what my old club did.
Yeah, it was just like a thing, and we had a big set of bylaws. In fact, at the club 25-year party at the Avi, I had the OG bylaws.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
So we had this packet of bylaws that all these rules, and I remember just writing these rules. I'm like, no, we need to get rid of these and just have these because it's just a simple, everything's changed. Mm-hmm. We can't go by these old rules anymore. But with the same thing, every year we'd vote on different officers.
Yeah.
Do this. And it was a lot of fun though.
It was.
Now we just don't have the time for it but back then when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, man, it felt like you were a part of this special organization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Do you think, look, the Forbidden Fantasy we're coming up on our 30th anniversary. Mm-hmm. So the club's been around for 30 years. And I was thinking about this, most of our members average have been in the club for 10 years, if you think about it. I'm coming up on my, I think I'm coming up on my 8th year being in the club, 7th or 8th year being in the club. And everybody who's in the club has been there before me, that we don't have too many new members. We have a few, but not too many. And so it's just what do you think created that longevity? I was thinking about this, what do you think kept it all together for so long?
Simplicity. Mm-hmm. Everyone, if you look at the clubs that have been around the longest, and I learned this from Negative Camber, Courtney Hollowell. It's just simplicity. If you make too many rules, this is supposed to be a fun thing that you do on the weekends to escape from your work. You don't want to go from work right into work. Mm-hmm. So it's just a fun thing. It's all it is. It's about the trucks and it's about getting together. And if you make too many rules, it's not going to work.
You know what? And that's exactly was the downfall of my last club. I left before it completely, folded, but towards the end, that's what it was. It was, going to a meeting every week, and we would, we had this very rigid schedule of the meetings, and we would, take rigorous notes and I forget what we called them at the time. What are they called? I don't know. Notes, right?
Minutes.
There you go. Yeah. Minutes. Yeah. We'd take these rigorous minutes, and then we'd, talk about who owed dues and who didn't owe dues. And there'd be this whole ledger of, and I think that's what did it. I think people, yeah, you're absolutely right. They were just getting tired of it being like another job. Yeah. It was a great way to put it.
Yeah, and the way that I live my life is very simple.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be. I don't know. I just like easygoing things. I don't. It's not very difficult, you know.
And that's why. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if there's a car show, you go to the car show. If you have a truck, you know what I mean. Like, build a truck, have fun, have a good time, you know.
And that's why I think I flourish so well in this club too, because, you know, I've said this before in previous episodes where, like, I talk about being in a small club in a small town comes with those type of problems, and being in a bigger club that's so spread out, like, we don't. I mean, there's little issues here and there, but we don't have those problems. We're able to, like, and especially me being so remote from most of the SoCal chapter guys, like, we can go live our lives completely separate and then come together and have a really, really great time and then go right back out, you know? And, like, all of our members wear all the shirts and hats and jackets with a lot of pride. I do too. Like, I always wear Forbidden shirts, you know? And I think it's kind of funny because I think about this, like, you know, when I wear a Forbidden shirt, I'm very proud of that, to have, like, the 3 Fs across the front and the full logo on the back. But then I think about, like, people who don't know about anything and they see that, they're like, what's going on here?
I remember one time,
fantasy.
We used to have a 32-foot enclosed trailer, a club trailer that we purchased. And it was a 32-foot box, and on both sides, the logo was like 16 feet long, all the way from roof to bottom. It said Forbidden Fantasy on it. And I remember we pulled up somewhere, and someone was like, "Oh, what? Whose is that trailer? Or whose trailer is that?" I was like, "Oh, it's me and my partners." And Jamie hops out of the truck, and I was like, "That didn't sound very good."
Oh.
Me and my partner.
I see what you're saying.
Forbidden Fantasy.
Forbidden Fantasy.
And that's me and my partner, and Jamie hops out, "Hey guys." And I'm like,
that's funny.
Yeah.
I wonder about that sometimes too. But yeah, I was just making the point that, like, everybody in the club and everybody in a lot of different clubs, like, we were just, you know, are hanging out with Jaime. Like, Jaime is proud to be in No Regrets. You know, I mean, he has it blast on the back of his head, and it's just so cool that when you see people like that, you know, who are so proud of it.
Me and Ernie had a very similar outlook on truck clubs, and I think that's why everything ties together with No Regrets and Forbidden so much. But what the funny, when Ernie was in Forbidden Fantasy, he was my vice president one time, and we bumped heads, and he ended up, you know, leaving. But he took our bylaws, scratched out Forbidden Fantasy, and just wrote No Regrets under it
in pen.
Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny. That's really funny.
It was, but yeah, like that. And I mean, even Severed had their 30 year.
Yeah, they just had their 30 year last week.
I remember talking to Chad Lucas. I think it was at a No Regrets party at Lake Paris, that actual Lake Paris, and they used to have, like, get-togethers camping style. And I remember talking to Chad Lucas, who was in Severed Ties, and I said, "Man, this was 2000. This had to have been 2008, 7, 9, something like that." And I was like, "Man, where do you think this is all going?" You know what I mean? Like, where do you think it's going to go? Where do you think we're going to be in 20 years and 30 years? We know we're going to be old men. We know we're going to be dads and grandfathers and all this stuff. I said, but where's the mini truck stuff going to fit in? You know, and I always thought about that so much, and I still want it to fit in when I'm older. I don't want it to be like, I got out and those were fun times. You know what I mean? I still want it to be a part of my life moving forward.
That's the way I look at it, and it's kind of funny. And I'll give you a little bit of insight into myself. So my granddad was a Freemason, and he was involved with the Freemasons, and he was really involved with the Shriners here in SoCal. And so I always saw that, and I was like, man, that is so cool. And then, you know, I got into, and I always, like, admired clubs and stuff, and I knew I was going to get into a club. So I got into a club. And I was always, like, trying to, like, chase that or try to do that. Like, I always thought I was going to be, like, a Freemason or, like, a Shriner, or it'd be, like, some part of some fraternity. I was actually a part of one, and I won't disclose which one, but I was actually a part of one. And I realized, and being in this group, I realized, like, this is not my jam. Like this is not me. So I got out of it. But then I realized, and it took me a long time to realize, this is it. This is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
You know, my granddad was a Freemason and he fit into that, but this is what does that for me. That fills that and it's not a fraternal thing, like men only kind of thing. I'm not saying it in that capacity. It's just you're finding this group of people that you fit in with. And the cool part about this is that, like, if you're a Freemason, then like that's it. That's all you can be. You don't really go hang out with, like, you know, other, like a Moose Lodge or something like that. But with us being in this club, we're still part of an even bigger group of people, which is the scene. You know, and that's what I love, and that's what I've said this before. That's what always keeps me going back, is being a part of this thing. You know. Anyway.
Yeah. I think that's a good wrap on that.
Yeah. No, that was a good one. You want to keep going? We got one more.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's finalize it with the last one.
All right. Okay. It's kind of long. Okay. So bear with me. I'm gonna read to you. So I got this actually on my personal Instagram, which, again, if you're watching and listening, please go to the drop of Frank and Brian, all one word, on Instagram. Drop messages there. It's much easier. That way we can just, put them all together. But this one was actually on my personal Instagram, and this is from a dude named Ryan Da Hawaiian, which now I realize that rhymes. That's hilarious. Good job, Ryan. Ryan Da Hawaiian. And he says, I have a 98 single cab Tacoma. I have a 1UZ for it already and plan to swap it soon. I also plan on doing coilovers front and rear also. Can I consider it a mini truck or is it a sport truck? Where are the lines between the two? So in your opinions, what separates the two different classifications? In the big picture, I literally enjoy almost every type of automotive genre, so I'm trying to put them all together.
What's your take on what's the difference between a sport truck? Because there used to be...
Yeah, I know. There used to be Sport Truck Magazine.
Yeah, there was trucking, sport truck, and mini trucking.
Right. And
all under the same media company. So
yeah. So when back then, like if I was to ask myself back then, what's the difference between a sport truck and a mini truck and trucking, was like mini trucks, exactly what he's saying right here. Like the mini trucks and trucking were bag trucks. And then the sport truck guys were like, they were usually just like static dropped or dropped with a rake. And they were more into the performance side of things.
Yeah.
I think now, like we've said many, many, many times on this podcast, the umbrella mini trucking is just it's just a title. It doesn't necessarily mean specifically mini trucks.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, what he's talking about, if he builds a freaking Tacoma with a 1UZ in it on coilovers, I'm like, that's a mini truck. That's super cool.
I mean, by definition, a mini truck is a truck It's a mini. It's a truck that came with standard with a 4-cylinder with an optional V6 that's what the old definition of mini truck was. You can't say that anymore.
Yeah,
it's because it doesn't do it. But yeah, mini trucking is whatever you want it to be.
Right. And
when I go to a show and I see a C10 that's laid out at a mini truck shop, I'm like, that's mini trucking.
Yeah,
like it is what it is. But I don't know if there's a difference. Like sport truck would probably be, like you said, it's all performance orientated stuff.
And nowadays those guys are like and I always cannot pronounce this, the Trochucha guys. The Troquita.
Oh, like Troqueando?
That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I don't know. First of all, I don't know what that word means, and second, I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, those guys sort of filled that space. They're building performance trucks, with big motors and cammed out and exhausts and But then again, like, maybe, I've noticed that those, and I don't know too much about that scene, but like, they started off in the total performance, but now, they're starting to, they've always put big billet wheels on them, but now they're starting to like bag them. They're starting to do more with the paint. They're starting to do more in the interior. They're starting to do more custom as well as like the performance stuff. So I think like everything else, it's evolved. To me, like to kind of touch on the point that you made, like, to me, a mini truck, and maybe this is too broad, but a mini truck is whatever you drive to the mini truck show.
I think I was just going to say that.
like if you pull up in a 65 Cadillac that's laid out, mini trucking. Like exactly, you literally just said that,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like Jose in our club has that Cadillac now.
Yeah, he just got a 66.
Still a mini trucker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're still a mini trucker. You're still doing mini truck things.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that motor swap Tacoma to a mini truck show, people are going to love it, That's
which is kind of interesting because it's not a back and forth thing. Like you can't take, you can't be a hot rodder and then pull it, because like that's a hot rod. Like doing a motor swap in that truck and putting it on high performance suspension, that is a hot rod. You can't take that to a hot rod show to be like, we don't want this new truck here, get it out of here. So I don't think it's like a interchangeable thing. So I think that really only works in our scene with our type of shows.
It does. And all those, like the good guys, people that go to good guys shows and all that stuff, like it's just a different type of breed than the mini truck guys.
You want to hear a quick little funny thing that I watched, and I'll send you a link to it because it's really good. So there's this young man, I don't want to say kid. It's this young dude who bought a 65 Mustang, just all rotted out, and he took the body and he put it on a Civic. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And then he takes it to a Mustang show.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, you can only imagine that he got both reactions. Some were losing their mind, and some were just like, even one guy was like, "That's hot rodding." Like he just took this high performance 4-cylinder motor and put it in this car. I mean, it's more than that, but that's
it seemed like he got more positive reviews than negative on that one.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, definitely.
And that goes right back to the thing. I don't know when we were talking about it, about kind of like, the middle finger thing. You just like, I'm different.
Yeah.
Like he's all here. This is a Civic.
That Mustang, he put the body on an entire Civic.
He did. Yeah. On the pan and everything. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Did you see that when I think that was, you guys sent that in our Facebook group?
I think so.
And then
I did.
I resent the guy that put the F100 body on the town car, I think it was. Like he cut up, and he put an F100 body on it. And then on Ronnie's podcast, there was a guy that put a C10 on a Civic, I think.
I've seen a couple different ones. I think I've seen the Civic one. Oh yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I do know that C10 on a Civic, because there's also a C10 that's on a hard body chassis.
Yeah.
And they call it like the C hard body or...
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? This is a funny thing. So someone sent that to me and they're like, hey man, check this out. And the name of the truck, I don't know, but it's something to that effect, like C10 hard body. And I'm like staring at this thing and I'm like, I don't get it. Like in my head, I thought maybe someone took C10 parts and grafted them onto a hard body. I'm all, that's a C10. Like the more I'm staring at this photo, and it is a C10, and it wasn't until someone pointed out, like, oh, no, it's on a chassis. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Thought that was funny.
But, yeah, I think do whatever you want. It's going to be cool.
Yeah,
and man. Then, that kind of goes into another subject that we're going to get into is going to be electric cars.
Oh, we got to talk about that.
Real excited for that one.
Me too. Especially...
There's a podcast out there called Inevitable. Inevitable. And I think I sent it to you, but you should probably listen to a couple episodes of that and prepare for because it'll get your mind in a whole another mindset about the future of mobility, because that's what it is. It's more or less about the future of mobility versus just electric versus gas.
Well, at the time of recording this podcast, it's August 25th, and have you seen the news article floating around today that everybody's losing their minds over? Oh, so California is banning the sale of gas-powered cars by 2035.
That's been a thing, though.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that's to tee up the next conversation. So, like,
everyone's freaking. They think they're going to come and like confiscate their older gas car.
I don't know. We're going to get into that in that conversation, in that one.
Look, so, no one cares. This is a good quote that I found on that Inevitable podcast. And if you're listening to this and you want to listen to that podcast, it's really good. But nobody cares or should care that the guy that drives a Toyota Corolla back and forth to work is gas or electric.
Right.
That's what people are losing their mind about.
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to come to your house and take your Nissan pickup truck or your Toyota Tacoma. They're not going to come confiscate from you.
Right.
They just want commuter cars to be electric. That's all. Don't freak out.
Well, we'll try to save this for that one. But another prelude to it was, California also currently, that's coming up much sooner, is the ban, and ban just is seems like anyway. So they're gonna not sell gas powered like generators, lawnmowers, like so. But anyway, we will get into a different thing, because we for the last couple weeks, we have been putting a lot of work into coming together to put together the overseas truck episode where we discuss trucks that are built in other countries, and we want to get all of our details right on that. So we're really working on that, and that'll be another one that we'll put a bunch of effort into.
Yeah. That there's some of these that just take a lot more factual knowledge and a lot more like because they're less opinionated. Essentially, they're more fact-based and opinionated. Yeah, or less. We don't have experience in Japan or this or anyways, whatever. Yeah, anyways, but that's it. We're done. Yeah, we're done.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks for checking out this week's episode. Thank you for dropping all of these questions. We really appreciate it. And once again, if you guys want to drop us questions, please do it on The Drop of Frank and Brian, all put together on Instagram. Drop them all there. Always check out our websites, livelifekustom.com, grinder-tv.com. We always have giveaways going on, so go to those websites to find out the information.
All right. That's it.
See you later.